Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Double Jab Podcast, powered by the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, exclusively on TriX57.com, inside the lovely, friendly confines of TriX57 Studios in Atlantic City, the Pierre Playground. Rich Canyon is alongside my co-host, as always, Rob Scott. Good show this evening on this Wednesday. Hope everyone is doing well. The 22nd of February 2017. A lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to dive into. You can certainly follow us on Twitter. You can comment in with Rob and myself on Facebook, as well as the AC Boxing Hall of Fame. As I alluded to, good show. We're hoping to hear from Roy Jones Jr. in about a half an hour, who is fresh off his WBF, his vacant WBF cruiserweight win, albeit not an exciting, entertaining affair, but yet he got the job done. There's so many questions regarding him going forward. And, of course, we just saw it a couple days ago in his fight against Bobby Gunn. But we've got a good lineup as far as boxing this weekend with a couple titles on the line. We had a little bit last night to kind of wet the whistle. We had some stuff over the weekend with Broner. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this evening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, boxing is definitely rolling along, as we say every week, because you know, like you broadcast Roy Jones's fight.
I did
last weekend.
Yes.
And you know, like you said, there's a lot of questions, you know, as to why. You know, the first question, and it's just a one-word question, and that is why. Like, well, why does he continue to go on? Roy Jones, like I said, he's one of those fighters that, you know, he was adamant about not going on and not being one of those guys to you know, stay on too late. And Roy Jones has stayed on for a long period of time right now. And but he looked good last week with the opposition that he had in front of him. He showed glimpses of his old Roy Jones self. But, you know, what does the future foretell for Roy Jones?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I actually threw it out today on my Facebook as well as on Twitter. I was just thinking aloud. You know, it is, when you really think about it, boxing, the uniqueness of boxing is that it is one warrior against another warrior in the ring, and sometimes you want to ponder the question, why do some fighters continue to fight? You know, you and I have been around the sport for a very long time. A lot of the answers I get is money, ego, you know, they just can't let it go. There's that fight within. I mentioned it during the broadcast as well, that sometimes you just, it's tough to decide when to walk away. Who am I to tell someone to stop doing what their passion is? I do understand that, but at the same regard, sometimes you admire them, right, for the courage and the wherewithal and the fact that they want to fight on, but then it's also, to some extent, it's tragic to watch.
Well, I think fighters are on certain levels. I mean, Roy Jones was on a level to the point of, I mean, at one point in time, Roy Jones held every light heavyweight championship.
You talk about the 90s into 2000s, he was it. When you talk boxing, it was Roy Jones Jr.
No, but what I'm saying is that he's held every championship. It's almost like being an addict. And Roy Jones is on a high because, and especially like we got Ray Leonard, we got a lot of fighters who stayed out because of the fact of who stayed in too long because of the fact that, you know, honestly, what it is they figured that they would beat the odds one more time. And Roy Jones is no different from any of those great fighters where he feels like I still have enough to beat the average guy. I just hope that, you know, at some point in time that he realizes that he's not the old Roy Jones of old. But I quite honestly, I think he already realizes that. But I still think that he has that competitive nature to still want to be in there with certain fighters. He wants to say that I am still Roy Jones, and yeah, I may not be able to beat the biggest man out there right now, whatever. But at the same time, I'm no peon. And I will never be a peon. And I think that it's not even an ego thing. It's a
but all that being said, Rob, though, in fairness, and I agree with what you're saying, but where I disagree a little bit is when is enough is enough, because a lot of fighters cannot get licensed in certain states, and I understand. Listen, that venue, the Chase Center, was packed. It looked like it was sold out. I'm sure they did a nice number with the buys. Feldman Promotions did an excellent job. They had some very good fights on the undercard. Kanat Islam is going to be a beast. We saw some local products as well. Roy said he wanted to make that fight entertaining, and he danced around Bobby Gunn, and let's be honest, he outclassed him. You do have to give the fans what they pay for. But that being said, when is enough enough? The legacy's intact. He's roller skating right into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. You can argue he's one of the all-time greats. That's fine. It's great bar talk and fodder. But eventually you have to say, okay, when's enough?
But again, as you started.
I know.
No, well, again, as you started, you said, who are we to tell them to stop? I mean,
you posed a question, though.
Well, no, it's like any regular job. You know how they say, like, after someone retires, the average person dies after, like,
they have nothing
a few
to do.
years. They have nothing to do. So what is he going to do when he's dedicated his life for so long to this sport from a competitive nature standpoint? Now, I just hope that he tones it down, you know, because the fact that, and realizes that he's not the same Roy Jones, but at the same time, you know, be more strategic in the sense of, like, who he decides to face. Bobby Gunn was there to be beat up, and Bobby Jones is there to put on a show for that night. And I don't have a problem with that. That's what we were talking about last week. When you have a pay-per-view that's 20-something hours, it's just a night of a good fight.
No.
I don't have a problem with that. Now, if Roy Jones is trying to win, you know, the WBC,
He said he wants to fight for a cruiserweight title.
Well, if he wants to fight for those titles, that's where I think, like, the commissions need to step in the sense of, like, I know Larry has it here in New Jersey. He's not going to let a person with a negative record fight somebody with a positive record. Mm-hmm. He tries to keep it very, very, you know.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah, he tries to keep it
competitive balance, but yeah.
So I think that's where the commission needs to step in and say, well, listen, you know what? I think that, no, I don't think that fight should happen.
And it might not happen. I mean, there's talk he might fight again, Roy Jones Jr. in May in Belarus. Just a reminder, too, we're powered by the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame. Inaugural induction ceremony and celebration May 26th, 27th, and the 28th. Visit us online, ACBHOF, AtlanticCityBoxingHallOfFame.com. Wonderful 2017 induction class. We've been talking with a lot of these guests over the last several weeks. Just to give you an idea, Tyson, Gotti, Levander Johnson, Michael Spinks, who we spoke to. You know, the list goes on. Don Elbon, Larry Hazard Sr. We had Bill Johnson in here. We had Dave Bontempo in here as well. We had Steve Smoger. So it's going to be a wonderful weekend. For more information, follow them on Twitter as well. Follow them and like them on Facebook as well. And that's, again, in May. It's going to be a wonderful weekend. It's going to be an exciting weekend. A lot of memories to come back. You've got ticket information as well online with all the hotel reservations at 26, 27, 28. And I do believe tickets go on sale. So we're already in the process of getting so much feedback for this weekend, which we're talking February now. We're going to blink. Spring is in the air. No more football to talk about. We got a nice little litany of boxing to get to.
Before we know it, boxing, we're going to be into that Hall of Fame. And it's a class.
Yes,
you know what I mean? It's a classic class, if you will. And I, like I said, I'm challenging anybody to think that this is not a deserving class and who deserves kudos.
Before we take our first time out, speaking of guys that we thought were going to have or potentially put on a good show this weekend, we did see Adrian Broner in action. I mean, listen, I was not blown away. I wasn't. Broner was able to outpoint a very tough opponent in Granados. But listen, you know, Adrian Broner said he wants to really make some serious noise. And to be honest, I know the scoring, it was tightly contested. A lot of people had a 97-93, 96-94. But again, listen, he had an opportunity, hometown, right? You looked at Granados. He ran out of gas late in that one. I was not overwhelmed with Adrian Broner's performance.
Well, it reminds me of that saying, how to say you got to beat the champion in order to beat a champion. Granted, Adrian Broner didn't come in there with the belt, but at the same time, let's face it, he was the champion of Cincinnati. And in order to beat the champion, you have to do something head and shoulders above what the champion did. And I don't think that Granados did anything head and shoulders above. I'm not mad at the decision. I wouldn't have been mad if they said Granados won the decision. But I don't think that Granados did anything that was head and shoulders above. One thing that stands out to me is that, you know, that one thing that I hate is when people talk about boxing experts. I don't believe in a boxing expert. I think that, boxing is the theater of the unexpected, and I think that anything can happen. And I think that by being the theater of the unexpected, I think that anything could happen, and anything did happen that night. Granados believed in himself when a lot of people didn't believe in him.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about this and see if Broner's better served at 140 as opposed to 147. We'll start to look ahead to Wilder's fight over the weekend as well, which is right around the corner. Tony Harrison as well taking on Swift Hurt, so we'll get into that. Don't forget, 30 past 7 o'clock hour, Roy Jones, we're hoping to hear from him as well. Just getting warmed up on a Wednesday edition of Double Jab Podcast. Again, powered by the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame. We'll come back on the other side.